Welcome back to BZenTV. I'm your host, Brit Mogensen, and in this episode, we are actually traveling to Los Angeles so that we can talk to Monique Kelley. Now, if you guys have been a longtime viewer of the show, you know that Monique Kelley is our go-to dating and relationship expert.
Get out there and date, and don't forget my 3 favorite words, Brit. In addition to. Okay. In addition to a reset, you can still be open to dating. In addition to a reset, if you meet someone and you're intrigued, what we're not going to do is be like, well, I'm taking a reset, so I'm not going to go out with the person. No, we're not doing that.
So in this episode, we are going to do a different type of interview. Monique shares her story. We get into how she went from being a high-powered studio executive in Hollywood to starting her own dating and relationship blog, which led to becoming an author, and now her role as a very prominent dating and relationship expert, sought after by some of the television shows that we all watch regularly. She is featured on shows like 90 Day Fiancé, The Daily Blast Live, Good Day LA, The Tamron Hall Show, The Jennifer Hudson Show. The list goes on and on and on. And she has so many insightful nuggets of wisdom about how to operate in the workforce, how to climb the ladder, how to deal with challenges, and most importantly, how to stay true to yourself. This is a really fun, candid interview where we get to know Monique in a whole new way. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a little bit of inspiration. We've had so many fun chats with you, and I feel like people have seen a certain side of you.
Yeah.
But I am so excited to have you here to share with people the other sides of you, who you are, how much work you've done to get here, and to who is Monique? Will you tell everybody about it's like introduce yourself to the class. Will you tell everybody about yourself, your journey? What inspires you to do the things that you do, writing books, being on television?
So basically, the overall main story, I'll get it done in less than 3 hours. But basically, So I was married, had a huge wedding, celebrity wedding planner. If you're not familiar with California, there's the Hotel Del Coronado. Got married there. Yes. Was with my ex-husband for a year and a half before we got engaged, planned the wedding for a year and a half, so it wasn't like it was 3 months later, although I know people who've gotten married after 3 or 6 months and they are still happily married 20 years later. So
we got married after dating for 6 months.
Yeah, so it's just
PSA,
that's a beautiful thing that does happen. So basically I had this great wedding, and then shortly after this beautiful huge wedding, I found myself realizing that the marriage was not what I thought it was going to be. So I find myself starting my life completely over again. Devastated, couldn't believe this was happening. So at the time, I don't know if you knew this, I was a studio executive.
I read that in your bio, but we've never talked about it. So
I was a studio executive at one of the major studios. And as I was going through my divorce and getting past the divorce, I started writing my blog, Confessions of a Serial Dater in LA, anonymously, because I would go on these dates and they were just they were filled with clowns and foolery. And also sometimes for me, I was the clown or the fool too, because I was, in the middle of a divorce or just not healed. Yeah. So with the blog, I started writing about the dates. And it was a time for self-reflection for me, too. It was a time for me to cleanse. And my friends would be like, this is so funny. And I launched the blog anonymously because, I'm a studio executive. I didn't want them to know that I was writing this blog. Now, granted, the blog, it's stuff my grandmother used to read it and laugh. So it was nothing like where I write stuff where she'd be like, you're putting that on the internet? There are certain things the whole world don't need to know.
So it wasn't Call Her Daddy.
Hello, she's writing about that.
What? Yeah.
So basically, the blog took on a life of its own. Women started coming and reading, and guys were giving their input, because guys love, as you know, your husband knows this, guys secretly like listening to what women talk about behind closed doors, which is why there's so many men who watch Sex in the City or different things, because they give their
insight. Into watching Housewives.
And girl,
they'll begrudgingly do it, but they will love it.
Deep down inside, they're like, So it's and they give their opinion. So at a certain point, I came out that it was me. And then I started doing these events called Cocktails and Confessions, where I'd have groups of people come to Hollywood hotspots, and we do like, it's like a talk show format. And it grew from there. So at a certain point, I was then left the one studio I was working at and went to another one.
Okay.
The one studio I started off with, I'm not saying names, absolutely loved working for that studio. One of the best studios, just a great place. So the next place I went to, they came looking for me, and they were just, they gave me everything I wanted and asked for. So I was like, okay, bye, studio. I love family. I'm going here. And I was at this place and realized I was miserable. I hated the job. And at the same time, I'm writing the blog anonymously, and then I started writing my novel. With that particular job, I traveled 80% of the time. So I was gone usually Monday through Thursday, and then Sunday used to be my writing day. I would go to the spot in Beverly Hills, Gratitude Cafe. It's no longer open in Beverly Hills. Sit at the same spot for 5 hours, start writing my book. Then at night I would write at home. And they were wonderful. They bring me champagne at the end of they would always know when I was finishing off. They'd bring me champagne. And then, so I'm writing the book. I'm writing the blog. I have a full-time, high-level job that I hate. So at a certain point, my contract was up with the job. And I pretty much told them I don't want to renew my contract. At this point, I was like, I'm not married. I have no kids. I'm going to take a chance and see where life takes me. I'm going to finish this book. I'm going to start doing more with my dating stuff. And started doing a few TV things here and there. We're starting to blow up. And then COVID hit. And I was like, oh, sugar, honey, iced tea. I have quit a lucrative job. And COVID has hit. And what am I going to do? Like this, oh my gosh. So after prayer and things like that, I had a freak out moment for one day, and then the next day I was like, you know what? I can help singles navigate dating with this pandemic, because we'll probably only last a few months.
Right. Yeah.
You remember?
Oh, yes, I remember those days.
6 to 8 weeks.
It won't be very long. It'll be fine.
So I started doing this thing called Single During the Rona. It was giving dating advice for singles during lockdown, because it was only, just a few months, so helping them out. And then as it grew, and we realized it wasn't going to be a few months, television shows were loving the content, because first of all, it was feel-good content in the middle of just foolery.
Yes.
Second of all,
we needed your light. We needed the light. Your Leo sun light.
As you said, whatever. 100%. What house was that? House of 3 or whatever.
So you are, let's see, we'll give your Leo sun in the 6th house. So she brings the love and the light every day.
Thank you.
To your work, 6th house work. Yes.
Thank you very much. And I was born August 6th. There you have it. Hello.
Yes.
So basically, it was just like, it just blew up from there.
Yeah.
And from there, it just literally blew up and just grew, expanded, and then here I am. That's kind of was that under 3 hours? Yeah. I was getting close. That was 2 hours and 58 minutes.
So I would love to ask you about...
You could edit some of that out.
It was great. I love it. No, it was amazing. I'm actually going to dig in deep. I have more questions for you about
it. I'm going to, I'm going to...
So when you were evaluating making that change, leaving the job that felt stable and that, you had... I feel like so many people will struggle with that. They don't know when they're ready to make a change, or even to start doing a side thing where they're honoring their creativity, writing a book, even if people don't quit their job. What was your thought process around all of that? How did you decide, okay, I'm ready now, or this is going to be my moment to do that?
I think it's important that when you are going that route, because a lot of people hear this story and they're like, oh, you quit your job and left the job, and it sounds so inspirational and so easy.
Right.
So, and remember, when I left, I did not know we were going to have let me watch my language, a pandemic.
Yep.
But first of all, when you're making that decision, and for 3 years, I was working full time and doing the other stuff on the side and building the brand. I was not making money at all. It was literally something for fun and seeing where it went for 3 years. But I always tell people, don't be stupid, okay? First of all, I had a very great career. So I had money. Lots of money in savings, lots of money in other investments. And when I left, the job, I also got, a nice severance, So, when you're making that decision, don't be dumb. Because a lot of people think it sounds cute. And you have to take into account, what if things don't work out, right?
Yes.
So, and also, I didn't have a husband. I didn't have children. So I was able to maneuver very differently. So it is okay. I always say my 3 favorite words, in addition to. If you're not in that type of position, in addition to having a full-time job, you can have your side hustle and watch it grow and not leave your full-time job until you know financially you can sustain it and it's not going to affect your family and you see it growing. So, and that means lots of sleepless nights. That means a lot of sacrifices, you know. When the pandemic hit, you know, and I was like, oh crap, you know, I used to have a personal shopper at Neiman Marcus that would call me and be like, we have the size 11s and the Louboutins that you want to, like, at that point I was like,
never
listen,
a bad day.
don't call me right now. Don't call me right now.
Just hold off on it.
You got to make sacrifices, you know.
It.
I used to go, you know, overseas with my girlfriend and have like a fun girls trip to like, Mykonos or Ibiza. So for a few years I didn't get to do that because I knew, like, I was like, okay, I have to maneuver. So you know it's going to be a lifestyle change because a lot of people see things, the shiny part and the accolades, and they don't see what's happening behind the scenes and the constant hustle. I find a lot of people will come after me, and I know this, I'll just say this, they'll go on my page like, oh, she was on this show. Let me try to see if I can get on that show because Monique was on that show. They don't realize the amount of time that it took for me to create those relationships. They don't realize for a lot of those shows, I had been emailing producers for years before they gave me an opportunity to come on the show. And then once you do the show, you got to prove yourself. And before they're like, okay, we're going to keep going. So I just like to have a realistic view of what that looks like.
I love that you say that. I think that is so important. And I think that, you know, a lot of people do experience that in one way or another. Like, I know, just for example, I'm talking about Michael, my husband, a lot, but he's experienced that too, being a lawyer. People have said, oh, you know, I should have gone to school to become a lawyer, and we just kind of laugh because it's like it's so easy. And I just feel like in the Instagram world or whatever, the TikTok economy we're in, I just think that that's something that I'm seeing so much more of, because people see just like a flat image. And they're like, oh, okay, that looks easy. Because maybe that person makes it look easy. Or maybe they only see just a snapshot. They don't see everything that goes into it. All the hours of work, study, time, dedication, tears. Like, and anything worth building is going to take all those things, right? It really is.
It absolutely is. And I'll add this just to bring it to the dating relationship aspect. Yes, I was single at the time. I didn't have kids. But let's say you're in a marriage or a very serious relationship and you're making this decision. Have conversations with your significant other. Don't just come home and be like, I've decided to do this. And then if your partner's like, wait, what? And they need a second to digest it. Don't say, oh, they're not supportive because they need a second to digest it. You have to work with your partner and make sure that it is the right decision for your family, and also make sure that you're on board together, and give your partner the opportunity and the respect to, you know, come to grips with it and see how you guys can work it out together. I think that's super important.
That's great advice.
Thank you.
Really great advice. I love that. And so good to, like, remember that we can't do anything fully alone. We have to have a support system. We have to include the people in our lives that love us. And so important. I also want to ask you about, you know, when you were living that previous life.
The married life?
And you were, well,
or
no, not that
life.
one.
Oh, okay. Girl, that just didn't work out. It was a speed bump. I always say with my marriage, it was like you're driving along and you're like, you hit a speed bump. You're like, oh, crap. I hit a speed bump. I think my alignment's off. Hopefully my tire's good. You get home, you're like, okay, it's good. Okay.
They're good. Looking
we'll
great.
keep it moving.
Yeah.
We'll get slower next time. She had a full set of tires.
She's looking great. But I feel like what you did in your previous life, career-wise, working in such a high-powered position where you were in charge of, I'm sure, so many things, many schedules, different personality types. Is there anything that you learned from that you could impart to our viewers watching? Because on this show, we love to do, like, you know, practical tips from people who have done things that are extraordinary, like what you've done. What would your advice be for anybody who finds themselves, you know, struggling with that climb or dealing with those types of situations in the corporate world and beyond?
Good.
That can be
First
tough.
of all, with the corporate world, there's a few things. First of all, with your networking, don't just go to people when you need something, right? Build those relationships for a while. Maintain those relationships. I will say a lot of my success has been from women in particular that were executives as well, that I had relationships with them for years before I even needed anything. and just would stay in touch with them. We'd hang out. I had a great sister circle, and those women, when I was ready to make moves, they looked out for me. They made sure they had the meetings and things like that. But that's because I have been in these circles and building these relationships, not even realizing what was coming, but just genuine, authentic relationships for like a decade.
That's great. So
that was number one. Number two, don't get so stuck in the, how do I put this? Yes, I'm a Black female in a very high-powered job. But I don't lead with being Black or lead with being a woman. That's part of who I am. That's part of what makes me. But I am Monique. And when I'm doing different things, I come from the perspective, yes, all that's in me. Like, that's all part of it and important. But I come and I approach people individually for who they are, the energy they bring to me. And I don't bring all of that with me when making decisions. It's a part of who I am, but it's not something, hopefully I'm expressing this right. It's not something where it becomes how I maneuver with everything. Okay, I like to look at people as individuals and who they are and the energy they bring to me and operate from that perspective.
Okay.
So I think that's important. Also, I think it's important too, as a woman, and as a Black woman, that when you do get into positions of power, you help other people out. So in the same way that those females executives looked out for me and made sure they made a way for me, even when I was in corporate America, women, we looked out for each other. We made sure we paid it forward. So making sure you do that. And also maintaining your will not to cuss people out. When you type an email, walking away and coming back before you hit send. Because, trust me, I didn't always do that.
Well, it can be hard.
Okay, I'm sure people have some emails from my 20s that I just not as involved.
Oh, me too.
Or healed. Even in my 30s. So, like, just...
Maybe tomorrow if you're the wrong way. Okay, no,
so making sure you're very smart with how you maneuver. Yeah. And remember, the same people you meet on your way up, you meet on your way down. I've always been one, I have treated the janitor, the receptionist, the same way I will treat the EVP, SVP, CEO, whatever. So making sure you treat everybody equally. Because that does come back to haunt you. I've heard stories of people who used to be assistants and people were not nice to them. They are now running studios or running things, and they trust and believe they remember. And you're not going to be nice to people just because they might blow up. You're going to be nice to people because you're not an a-hole.
Exactly. Yeah. And then if karma just so happens to come back around, then so be it.
And you will be surprised how people come back in your life. I know I was in a college play, my junior year of college. I won't say how long ago that was. And the person who was the stage manager, he was a year younger than me at another college where I was doing the play. Him and I were always cool. We kind of kept in touch on Facebook. He is now a huge executive producer of a major show. And to this day, he recalls us being in college, how cool we were, and it's helped maneuver a lot of things in my career. And that was back when I was in college. So you just got to be careful how you treat people.
Be a nice person. Hi, I'm Brit. Join me for my new weekly podcast where we use the stars to learn all about you, really. So if you've ever wondered about your birth chart, how to dress on a date based on your Venus sign, yes, that's a thing, when Mercury's in retrograde and how it's going to affect your sign, we are going to cover all of those topics weekly so that you stay in the know. And then we're also going to have some fun looking at the headlines, what's going on with celebs. We're going to read tarot cards to get the truth behind the headlines. And we'll also be looking at celebrity birth charts. Join me on In the Cards and Stars wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. We also did a birth chart reading for you over on the podcast.
Yes.
In the Cards and Stars. Check it out after this. But you have Saturn in your 6th house, which is like daily work, and Saturn is discipline. Would you say that you have any like good tips for remaining disciplined, staying involved when it feels hard? Because again, our culture right now, it's very much about quick fixes, instant results.
Yeah.
How did you stay the course, and how would you give other people advice to do that?
So that's when it comes to your circle and your family. I have wonderful friends, an exceptional family, in particular my mother. She's just my rock. And I don't cry. My grandmother was just like, sorry. She was always so supportive from the very end. So it's important that you have a good support system, because there are days when I have been like, I'm over this. Like, I'm just gonna go back to thank you. Thanks, Michael.
It's okay. We cry here.
I know. I'm all like,
it's a safe space to cry and let your feelings out.
Girl, don't. Okay, you can edit
that.
You
have a lot of love. You have a lot of love there.
So I know, like, having that support system for those days when you're down and you're ready to throw in the towel, right? Also, I am very much into meditation, prayer, and just centering myself and making sure that I am completely centered on days. And this is something I've learned when I am just feeling just not feeling my best. I've learned how to pause and meditate. Self-care, including I have a Reiki healer, therapy, like all of those things are important. Also, it's important when you realize you have outgrown certain people in your life. I have realized, I would say in the last year, it's been not a whole lot, 'cause generally I have such great people, but I'll say there's been maybe 3 people where I've realized, you know what, at this point in my life, this relationship, it is no longer energetically what I need it to be. And being okay with setting a boundary doesn't mean you go tell them to F themselves, but you realize you tell them, you set boundaries for yourself. But also the major thing I've learned, I have been so disciplined, so on this grind, so focused. There have been periods of time where I'm so focused on the future that I've forgotten to live.
Yes.
So making it a point, okay, Monique, you need to go out with some friends. You gotta have balance, because there was a period of time I didn't go anywhere. I was doing all those shows. I had to be tested 3 days a week. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not talking to anybody. And I was in this bubble. And I have to admit, when I started going out again, I was socially awkward. I was like, I didn't know how to interact with people.
Understandable, yeah. Get out of practice.
Just making sure you have that balance.
I'm like that too. I've been like that too for sure. When I've just hermited away, working on something that I really care about, and then you forget to have a balanced full life.
You forget. You're like,
what am I doing?
You forget to go out and have fun. So I'm getting better with that. Much better.
I think that's an ongoing thing, especially if you have your Mercury in the sign of Virgo, like we do. We're always going to be focused on our projects and things that we care about. You mentioned off the record that you were working on some new things.
Yes.
Another. Well, can we say anything about it? Are you going to tell anybody?
So I'm working on my next book.
Okay.
And it's going to be nonfiction. So what I'm loving about this is all of the dating advice and relationship advice that I talk about on camera and on these various shows. It's going to be in a book, and it's going to be combined with my own personal stories, so that people understand, that here's, I'll be like, how's she dating experience? I've lived it. What I talk, I live. I know, I'm like, I've lived it. Do you want to get dating advice from someone who hasn't dated since 1998? Or do you want to get dating advice from someone who has been in the trenches with you and gone through it? So it's going to be...
And has Venus in the 5th house.
And has Venus in the 5th house.
She's an expert dater, even in her birth chart. I just got to add that. Okay, sorry,
Thank you for that. Put that in the,
it's in the stars,
too. I keep moving stuff. When I get excited, I'm sorry, your engineer's going to kill me.
I do that, too. I do that, too, in my home studio.
Make sure you put that in the bottom. But, yeah, so it's like that. I'm doing that. I have different things coming into the horizon that you'll be seeing more of me.
Oh yes, well I'm sure it might be
on
and then
and Married at First Sight.
I was just going to ask you about that.
Married at First Sight, I host the specials, Decision Day Dish, Cast Tell All specials, which has been awesome because, as you know, I am a reality TV junkie. I don't know if everybody else knows this. I am obsessed with reality TV, and Married at First Sight I have watched since season 1. And people think, oh, that's crazy, someone getting married at first sight. But what I love about this show is the vulnerability of the people to do that, and taking risk. In life, you have to take risks. And I think that people who go on this show, I love that they're open to that possibility.
So have you seen people just finding love? What are some of the different things you've witnessed?
the things I've witnessed is people who have stayed together. Like one of the couples, a few of the couples have children together. They're still married now. So the experiment does work. And I think when you are single and you're doing different things to meet your mate, a lot of people can be very judgy of like, well, I can't believe they did this. I can't believe they did that. I applaud the people who come on this show and are actually willing and open to seeing what the possibilities are. Even if it doesn't work out. How many times do you meet people organically, you know, and you start dating for a while and it doesn't work out? Do people then say, well, you shouldn't have met this person at the grocery store. Next time go to Whole Foods instead of Erewhon?
Yeah, no.
Which I love Erewhon. Girl, I'm going to get some buffalo cauliflower after this.
I'll check that out with you.
You know, be about time for my fasting to be over. Have you heard my stomach? Have you heard my stomach?
No, we
Girl,
have not.
My stomach has been over here like...
We haven't heard
You haven't?
No, I promise.
Okay, if you edit that out, because it is...
Why'd we leave it in an error on the TV show, actually? We're gonna add it for... You just zoom in on you making that...
Oh my God, a few times I was like trying to play it up when I was talking a little bit louder.
She's also a comedian now. On her new show.
Yeah, you didn't know I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You have to admit,
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Usually we're so quick to talk, but now it's like,
It's good.
I'm actually fun.
Oh my, you're so much fun, and anyone who watched you knows that. So, okay, we can look for you with your new book. So we need to follow you on Instagram, of course. We can see when you're releasing new things. You're always on different news shows, so also go to Monique's Instagram so you can see if she's going to be appearing on a show near you. You're on national shows. You're everywhere.
Everywhere.
Just, I think, go to the Instagram to keep up with you.
At Cocktails and Confessions. That's where you'll see everything, what I'm up to.
Thank you so much. This has been such a delight, as always, and I appreciate you coming here so that we could all get to know you a little bit better.
I'm so happy to be here. Like, this
woman
made
behind
my
the amazing
day.
advice. Me too.
I am so happy. This has been awesome.
Same.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of BZenTV. We had a blast getting to talk to Monique. Be sure to follow her over at Cocktails and Confessions on Instagram, where you can keep up with all of the happenings and latest things that she comes out with. Also, I want to give a special thanks to the team over at Yay Networks. For more of this type of content, like birth chart readings, pop culture, astrology, an analysis of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce is available now, by the way. Go ahead and check out In the Cards and Stars, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube over at Brit Madrid. In the meantime, you guys be zen, set that DVR, and I'll see you in November.